Okay, so welcome to Sangha night. Hope you're having a nice evening so far. So my talk this evening is, it's titled, Ready or Not, One Day We Shall Die. So jolly evening we're in for. So it's about a traditional practice called the 4 mind-turning reflections. So you've probably noticed you've all got a verse on your seat, on your chair. So that is the, I'll start by reading through that verse. Okay. This human birth is precious, an opportunity to awaken. But this body is impermanent. Ready or not, one day I shall die. So this life I must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. The karma I create shapes the course of my life, but however I act, life always has difficulties. No one can control it all. Only the Dharma can free me and others from suffering forever. Therefore, I recall my heart's longing for freedom and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it. So this particular verse, it's a rewriting of a traditional Tibetan practice called the 4 mind-turning reflections. It's sometimes just called the 4 reminders. So this particular version, this verse, this was written by an order member called Viveka and reworked by Vasantra. Some of you might have come across it. It's quite often it's used on retreat as the morning puja, part of the morning puja. So in that verse, there are 4 main reflections in that text. So they're things that we can reflect upon in our practice. So I'll pull out the 4 reflections as we go through. The idea of these reflections is it's a practice to turn the mind. So it's a practice to turn the mind towards the Dharma, towards how things really are, towards how things actually are, towards awakening. So within our current theme is called mindfulness as a way to the deathless. So we're all about awareness on this theme. So these reflections, they can really refine and transform our awareness. They can directly change our mind and consciousness if we can reflect on these truths. So they're meant to be quite hard-hitting, so they're quite challenging. They're reflections on the big things, aren't they? They're reflections on life and death, suffering, dangers in the world. So these reflections can help with our perspectives, so they can help to move us from like overwhelm or avoidance to a bigger, vaster perspective, so that we then can look directly at what's really going on and we can understand the true nature of things, and then we can respond with compassion, we can respond effectively. So they're sometimes called the 4 thoughts that touch the heart. So they're designed to change an emotional response. Okay, so the 4 reminders in this verse, they're not immediately obvious from the way the verse is written. It's quite a poetic verse, but these are the 4 reminders. So the preciousness of human birth, the inevitability of death, the truth of karma, and the defects and dangers of samsara. So maybe just at first glance, when you first hear that, what is your immediate response? So birth, death, suffering, karma, whatever, there's lots of possible responses to those big issues. So maybe you feel a little bit scared or overwhelmed by it, don't really want to go there, death and danger, no thanks. Or maybe a bit sort of nothing and maybe a bit distracted, like, yeah, I already know about that and I'm completely fine with it. Or even like resignation, maybe helplessness. Well, why would I think about all of that? Because I can't do anything about it, so I'll just ignore it. So we can have all these different responses. As unenlightened beings, we have these responses. But as I go through the talk, we'll just see what these reflections are really trying to point us towards. Okay, so I'll go through them one at a time. So the first mind-turning reflection, the preciousness of a human birth. So we've all been born human, and this gives us what we call self-reflexive consciousness. So it's awareness of a particular type. We're not always just caught up in drives and habits. We can sometimes have what we learned about earlier, sati, that kind of awareness where we can sometimes go, oh, hang on, what am I doing? And we suddenly can recollect ourselves and we can regain awareness, this self-reflexive awareness. And in the Buddhist view, being born with that type of awareness is particular to a human life, and it's one with difficulty, and it's very, very precious, and it's rare. So the traditional view, Buddhist view, about what happens after death is not that it's just nothing, end of, lights out time. That's not the Buddhist view. But neither is it that something completely unchanging persists about me like an eternal soul. It's a middle way between those two extremes. So something of our habit drive or our quality of awareness goes forward into the next life. So the fact that we've been born human this time, it's said, is not due to just fate or just due to chance. It's due to our skillful actions in the past over many, many lifetimes. In fact, Sangha, our founder, says that having achieved a human birth, we're probably already most of the way there. So we're doing well already. And also, you might not believe in rebirth. It might not be something that you believe in, because after all, most of us, we don't really know that through direct experience or memory. But we still can use this reflection about the human birth being rare. Because if we think about it, in this world that we're in, there are far more other living beings than there are human beings. Humans are rare. So if we think about all the beings, that not just all of the animals in the world, but all the other kinds of creatures, so sea creatures and the birds, worms, insects, bacteria, there's just vastly more other beings than human beings. So being born a human is rare. And it's said it's one with difficulty, and so it is precious. And not only that, we've been born and we've been given a human birth, but if we are practicing the Dharma, we've got what are traditionally called endowments and freedoms. There's a really big list, and I won't do the big list because there's 8 freedoms, 10 endowments, and 3 types of faith, and we've all got those. But I won't list them all, but I'll just say a couple of them just to kind of give a flavor of what this is getting at. So one thing is that we've been born at a time when we've got access to the teachings of a Buddha. So there's been lots of time in human history when that's not been the case, hasn't there? So we've got that. And also, we're not oppressed by such extreme states of suffering that we just can't practice. We're not starving. We're not living in a war zone. We're not utterly consumed by addiction. And actually, many of our fellow humans in this world do not have those conditions that we have. They're not so fortunate. We have a body and a mind that function well enough for us to practice. Might not be perfect, but well enough for us to practice. And we live in a culture that enables and allows spiritual practice. So we've got all these advantages. So we have all that, and our human birth is rare, and our human birth is precious, and we've got the conditions that we need to practice the Dharma. So if we reflect on all those things, maybe we can have more of a sense of wonder in life, the rarity and the preciousness of just having a human life. And maybe that can bring about gratitude, appreciation, just a sense of life being a really rare opportunity for practice. So that's the first reminder, the first mind-turning reflection. The next reflection, the inevitability of death. Okay, so for all of us, for me and all of you, death is certain, and the time of our death is unknown. So we think we know that, but it's really quite hard to grasp, and we do just dissociate from it. So like, I think it won't really be actually me that dies. It'll be sort of another person because it's so long off. So it'll be like old lady Paranita, not this me. Somehow that's how I think of it. But it will be actually me, won't it? It will be me with my Paranita clothes and my Paranita stuff that dies. So if I die in the night, someone will have to put these slippers away, these actual slippers, and sort out which of my, I don't know why it's all about clothes, sort out which of my clothes go to a charity shop. And someone else will have to give my Sangha night talks, and they will. And things will just carry on, won't they? Eventually, like, my friends will get over it, pretty much, and carry on with their lives. And eventually probably forget mostly about me. And, you know, even my kids will eventually just get on with their lives, won't they? This is what happens. So I'm not actually as significant to other people as I am to me. And when I reflect on that, though, there is some freedom in it. There is a bigger perspective. Like, I am part of things, but I'm not the center of it. I don't have to have that central role. But it's really hard to grasp. So a poem, I'll read a short poem by Kay Ryan. It's about the Niagara Falls. We know about the Niagara Falls. The poem is called The Niagara River. As though the river were a floor, we position our tables and chairs upon it, eat and have conversation. As it moves along, we notice, as calmly as though dining room paintings were being replaced, the changing scenes along the shore. We do know this is the Niagara River, but it is hard to remember what that means. So if we were on an aeroplane right now and it was about to crash into a mountain, or a comet was about to destroy the whole Earth, what would we do? We'd probably be running around going, oh no, don't you know we're all going to die? Well, why aren't we doing that? Because actually, that's going to happen. It's just a very slightly different time scale. We are all going to die. So samsara is a disaster. Like, there's no happy ending on its own level. Okay, why does that help? Why does this help? Doesn't reflecting on death just like make us sad or scared? So in this verse that we have, life's described as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears. So images of the fleetingness of life, they're really beautiful and they're really poignant. A poem from the Zen tradition by Dogen. Dewdrops on a blade of grass, having so little time before the sun rises. Let not the autumn wind blow so quickly on the field. So yeah, sadness, real sadness, but also compassion, because that sadness connects us. That's what connects us. We're all in the same boat. And it can also bring about motivation for practice. If we really realize the truth of our death, we may put less effort into looking for distraction and satisfaction in the things of this life, what we would call false refuges, because those things in life cannot bring us lasting satisfaction because we're all heading for death. So maybe this can turn our minds towards the true refuges, towards our real deepest longings, spiritual longings, and towards the Dharma. Okay, so that's the second reflection. So the next reflection is the truth of karma. So we've had a human birth, we're human, and we have self-reflexive consciousness. We are aware that we're aware. So because of that, we can make ethical choices. And we can know that what we do changes things. So we have that kind of awareness possible for us. So in this verse, my karma shapes the course of my life. And it's also really important to remember from this verse, I can't control it all. So just to say, not everything that happens to us is a result of karma. There are other levels of conditionality going on all the time that aren't karmic. So things happen on the material level, things happen on a biological and instinctive level, and this is not karma. So things like illnesses or a brick lands on my head, that might not be due to karma. So the common use of the word karma, like it's fate or what you deserve, something like that, that's not karma, and that's not what the Buddha taught. Karma means action, volitional, human action of body, speech, and mind. So all our karmic actions have consequences. They will result in something, and they will eventually bear fruit, but we don't know when. So our karma, our actions, that is the bit that we have influence over in all the complex conditionality of the world that's going on all the time. Karma is the bit that we can influence. So my karma shapes the course of my life. Do we really believe that? Do we really know that? So every single thing I do intentionally has an effect. It has an effect on me, and it has an effect on my mind and my habits, and on others and the world. And there's no escaping it. There's no, oh, just this once it won't count, just this once it doesn't matter. It always counts and it always matters. And if we look at rebirth, it really, really counts, because even tiny, tiny karmic acts repeated over and over and over again over gazillions of lifetimes, that really, really matters. Okay, so this is ethics, isn't it? Skillful action results in happiness, and unskillful action brings suffering. This is the law of karma. And it's not always just about willpower. It's not always just about intention. So we might have really good intentions, but we just can't do it. We can't carry them out because we don't have the right conditions to follow that through because of our mental states. For example, sometimes I lose my temper with my dogs. And I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. I never decide I'm just going to be really angry with my dog. But when I'm really tired, or I'm too busy, or I'm distracted, then sometimes I do, even though I don't want to. So the thing to do is not to be tired and not to be distracted, isn't it? Change my conditions. So just deciding not to do it isn't always enough to change it. So caring for our own mental states by taking care of our own conditions is a deeply skillful action. Taking care of our own mental states by taking care of our conditions is a deeply skillful action. And ethics is not about right or wrong, is it? It's not about simple rules. Sometimes it might be about saying no rather than doing more, so that we're guarding our awareness, we're guarding our mental states, so that we've then got the space and we've then got the awareness to be more skillful. So we have to be quite creative with it. So this reflection, if we really believe that karma shapes our life, what would we change in our life so that we can be more skillful? And it's a gradual learning, it's a practice, isn't it? And we don't always notice our progress with ethics and with awareness. And we just keep practicing, and we keep practicing, and then one day we just respond differently, and we can be quite surprised. I'll just give an example of a friend who was telling me that she was subject to a really frightening experience of road rage. Someone was doing road rage to her. She was really scared. It was quite extreme. But she didn't feel angry. She knew, without consciously trying or working at it, she knew that the road rager was in a state of suffering. And her natural, immediate response was empathy and compassion. So I was really moved by that story because it's one woman's life of ethical practice that's brought about a radical change in awareness and in her consciousness. And she wasn't always like that. So this scaled up. If you scale up that kind of effect, it's an end to all war in the world, isn't it? It's massive. So practice really works, and karmic action really does change things. So that's the third reflection. So the final reflection is on the defects and dangers of samsara. So samsara, the world as we see it, there is suffering. There is dukkha. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a lot of lists of dukkha. Okay, so there's one list of three types of dukkha. So we've got the suffering of basically a painful experience, say a broken leg. We've got the dukkha of change, which is that we lose things that we love. And we've got the dukkha of our existential predicament. We're all going to die. So that's a list of three. There's other lists. So there's another list of dukkhas with 8 dukkhas. We've got the suffering involved in birth, sickness, aging, death, being separated from those we love, being with those we don't love, not having what we want, and having what we don't want. So that's another list. There's a list of 6 dukkhas. The dukkha of having an uncertain lifespan, infinite rebirth, repeated conception, fluctuations of loss and gain, being alone at birth, and being alone at death. And we might go, hang on though, okay, there is that suffering, but there's also lots of pleasure, isn't there? There's lots of happiness. Well, in the list, there's often even the pleasurable things have got the hidden suffering attached to it. So things that we have might cause suffering for other people. That's one way that can work. I don't know why it's all about clothes. Like the clothes that we wear are often made by people in really poor conditions. Or we suffer because we fear losing what we do have. Or we suffer through guilt because of what we have that others don't have. Or we suffer because we've got what we want and then we get bored of it and we want something else. It's kind of endless. So there is dukkha. So why would we reflect on all this dukkha? Isn't it just really depressing? Well, we can reflect, yes, in samsara we suffer. But samsara and nirvana, they're not places. So we think of them as places. We tend to think that samsara is sort of this world that we're in, and nirvana is somewhere that I can go if I'm really, really good or I try really, really hard. But actually, I'm not even really sure that I want to go there because I don't really know what it's going to be like. It might be a bit lonely. It might be a bit unknown and bleak, maybe a bit emptiness. So I'll just stay here and try and make it all work out. That's kind of what we do with samsara and nirvana. But they're not places, are they? They're not places. The Buddha was living in this world after his awakening, after his enlightenment. So suffering is about our mind, isn't it? It's about how we relate to things. It's about how we experience, how we conceive of ourselves and the world. So we create samsara and we suffer. And we all do it because we don't understand how things really are. We're not enlightened, we are deluded. Our central delusion is that we think we're separate. So we think we have a fixed and separate self. I'm here at the center of things, and everyone else is out there. And we all do that, and we can't all be right because we can't all be at the center. So it doesn't work out and it doesn't make sense. We're deluded. So our mind and our awareness creates this kind of division. It creates a separate me. And then I've got to protect that me. I've got to get what I want, and I've got to avoid what I don't want, and I've got to keep this me safe. And this is our emotional experience of samsara, isn't it? This is craving and aversion. And this is tendencies towards unskillful action, all centered around the me, a misguided attempt to find happiness and safety and avoid suffering. And doing all that strengthens the sense of me, and round we go. It deepens the problem. And there's no blame, because all we're trying to do is get everything sorted out and get everything safe forever. We all want that, which of course isn't possible in that separate me kind of a way. It just makes it worse. There's a verse by Chandrakirti describing this really beautifully. First conceiving an I, we cling to an ego. Then conceiving a mine, we cling to a material world. Like water in a water wheel, endlessly we circle. I bow down to the compassion that arises for all beings. So reflecting on this, it's a vicious cycle, but there's no blame and there's no guilt, because this is how it is for all of us. So here is a possibility for empathy, isn't it? And compassion, solidarity. We're all suffering in this same way. And they're a pair. Karma, they're in pairs, these reflections. So karma and the defects of samsara, karma gives us a way out of that, gives us a way out of this cycle. Skillful action is action that's not about just the me. So skillful actions gradually teach our awareness, teach our mind, little bit by bit, how things really are and what really does bring freedom and happiness, which is interconnectedness, a radical interconnectedness. So that's the 4 reflections. So we can reflect on the preciousness of human life and the certainty of death, with gratitude maybe and with wonder, motivating us to practice, turning away from worldly things that can't bring us ultimate satisfaction, a call for urgency, taking our practice really, really seriously in the face of death. And we have the Dharma. At the time of our physical death, we can't hold on to anything in the world. Our loved ones, our stuff, our body, our clothes. It's all going to go. But what will persist is the quality of our awareness and the results of our actions in this life. So the Dharma is the only thing that will help us at the time of our death. And we can reflect on karma and the defects of samsara. So we can reflect on suffering, our mistaken belief that we're fixed and separate at the center of everything. We can look at how we act because of that delusion, and we can trust the precepts as a training towards freedom from that misunderstanding. And because we're all in the same boat, we're all trapped in an endless vicious cycle in that way in samsara. We're deluded and helpless. We can see each other that way. We can see each other with empathy and solidarity and compassion. So these reflections, these statements really, they're just true. On that level, we do believe them as being true. They're just how things are. But we have to reflect on them really so that we can really believe them. We've got to let them change us. We've got to let them change our awareness and change our emotional responses so that they can free us from our habitual illusions and delusions, and they can wake us up. So to end, how can we do that? How can we reflect on these truths, these statements? Well, firstly, we can make the time to have a reflection practice. So if we were doing quite a formal reflection practice, we would sit, doing nothing else, maybe a cup of tea is fine. And first just try and relax, just trying really hard to just let go of other concerns in the mind, stilling the body and mind if possible, And then just bring a reflection to mind. Just think it. Just bring it to mind. So one way is to just do that, to just bring to mind the reflection. So one day I'm going to die. And just see what happens. Just see what happens when I think that. And then if my mind drifts off, just repeating it. Okay, one day I'm going to die. Just keep bringing the reflection back, just bringing it back and bringing it back, and just see what the response is. And there's no right or wrong. I've been doing this a little bit this week, these past few weeks, as I've been thinking about this talk. So sitting and just looking out into my garden and just thinking, oh, I'm going to die one day and I don't know when that's going to be. And surprisingly, my garden suddenly looks more beautiful. Like I really noticed the birds. It's been a really beautiful thing to do. I was surprised. I noticed the birds. I noticed the sunlight reflecting on the droplets on the grass. My heart kind of opens and there's joy and a kind of sense of connection and a sort of timelessness, a kind of ease around it from that kind of reflection. I think it's to do with perspective. So that's one way we can do it, just bring the reflection in and see what happens. Another way we can reflect on these is to kind of, because we don't completely believe them, it's to try to find where is our edge of understanding? Where is our edge? Where do we hit up against going, no, I don't really think so, or I'm trying to ignore that, or it's a little bit creative and quite subtle, but just reflecting, like, what do I really think? Because there is a limit to our understanding of these truths. Otherwise, we would be enlightened. So we just keep coming up to that edge and we keep reflecting there, keep bringing it back, keep reflecting further, sort of pushing at that edge. And we can get much clearer then about what we really think. And another way, quite a simple way, is to bring this in as kind of an everyday, daily life practice. So if we can learn the verse by heart, or maybe a section of the verse by heart, we can just bring it to mind as we're going through our everyday life, when we're at work or with the family or shopping or doing whatever we're doing. Just bring it to mind and just see what it does, see if it has an effect. And we can use this verse as quite a formal daily practice as well. So we can recite it before we meditate, or we can recite it first thing in the morning as soon as we wake up, or just before we go to sleep, and see what effect that has. Okay, so I'll just finish there and I'll just read the verse one more time. This human birth is precious, an opportunity to awaken. But this body is impermanent. Ready or not, one day I shall die. So this life I must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. The karma I create shapes the course of my life, but however I act, life always has difficulties. No one can control it all. Only the Dharma can free me and others from suffering forever. Therefore, I recall my heart's longing for freedom and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it.